This morning, Sydney's gangland feud erupts. 2 men shot dead as police investigate links to 2 crime families. Cricket great Michael Slater arrested after an alleged domestic violence incident. Multiple injuries when a train smashes into an abandoned car at a station near Wollongong. Was it deliberately left on the tracks? And Victoria changes its border rules, allowing people from New South Wales in without the need to quarantine.
This is 7 News with Ann Sanders.
Good morning. A shooting that has left 2 men dead is believed to be linked to Sydney's gangland war. This is a live shot from our news chopper of the crime scene at Guildford in Western Sydney. Tom Hartley is there. Tom, police are investigating if this murder is linked to the feud between the Hamzi and Alameddine families.
Yeah, and this very much appears to be the case. Around 10 to 12 shots were fired here this morning on Osgood Street in Guildford around 9 o'clock or just before 9 o'clock outside a house halfway down the street. Now, when police got here, they found 2 men in a ute, a son and his father. Now, the son was dead with multiple gunshot wounds. The father was critical, but he had sustained a gunshot to his head. Now, paramedics tried their best to keep him alive, but sadly he succumbed to his injuries around an hour ago. Now, police have set up a huge crime scene here, blocking off the entire street. They've started tracking whoever's responsible, though they have their suspects. Now, close to 10:30 this morning, they found a burnt-out car on a street nearby, around 5 minutes drive away in Marylands. It could very well be linked to this shooting. Now, it's our understanding that this very public shooting is another confronting chapter in the ongoing dispute between the Alameddine and Hamzi crime families. Now, the victims, who appear to have been ambushed while leaving for work, were members of the Hamzi family. The father living here in Guildford, which is very much Alameddine territory. Now, we haven't heard much from police yet, Anne, but we are expecting that they will be speaking later on today, and we'll bring those details to you as they come.
Tom Hartley live in Guildford. Thank you, Tom. In more breaking news this morning, cricket great Michael Slater has been arrested after an alleged domestic violence incident. The 51-year-old was taken into custody at his Manly home on Sydney's northern beaches this morning. Police say they've been investigating an allegation of domestic violence from a week ago. Michael Slater was taken to Manly Police Station. He has not yet been charged. There's a crime scene at a rail station south of Sydney this morning after a passenger train derailed. 4 people needed treatment in hospital when the train slammed into a car abandoned on the tracks. Isabel Mullen has more.
Well, a major police investigation is underway after a 4-carriage train heading north slammed into a car which was parked on the tracks here at Kembla Grange. You can see the front carriage of the train came apart from the rest and was flung onto its side. 12 passengers had to be rescued and 3 people, including the driver, were taken to Wollongong Hospital for minor injuries. Police have set up a crime scene here and are investigating why a car was left abandoned on the tracks, appearing to ultimately cause this crash.
It doesn't appear to be a case of a simple breakdown, and the fact that someone's run from the scene prior to it indicates it's either deliberate or some sort of misadventure driving the car in that area on the tracks.
A major clean-up effort is underway. Today, buses are replacing trains on the south coastline between Albion Park and Wollongong.
A train strike on the Sydney rail network caused even more delays for commuters this morning. Sydney Trains warned the network would be operating at around 30% capacity as rail workers took industrial action. The workers are campaigning to end further privatisation of services and for all new trains to be built in Australia. Buses replaced many of this morning's services. A row over wearing a face mask has led to a shocking attack in the New South Wales Upper Hunter. An employee offered a mask to the man at a grocery store in Murrinindi. The man left before returning and launching a vicious attack on the employee. Customers ran to his aid and the attacker fled. Police later arrested a 53-year-old man, charging him with assault. There were family reunions at Melbourne Airport today as the border opened up to Sydney residents. Melina Saris is in Melbourne for us. Melina, this is despite another day of almost 2,000 COVID cases in Victoria.
Yes, good morning, and despite those high case numbers, we've seen some long-awaited family reunions at the airport this morning. Double vaccinated New South Wales residents no longer have to quarantine and can skip testing when they enter Victoria. Health authorities announced last night that all red travel zones across New South Wales would be downgraded today. The first flights from Sydney arrived in Melbourne early this morning with some very relieved and excited people touching down. They're all looking forward to being reunited with family and friends after spending months and months apart.
Super relieved, super excited. It's been stressful, but looking much more positive now, and just really excited to be here and see everyone, see my friends, see my family.
Finally happy to see my family after a couple of months here. So it's a feeling which I can't express in words, to be honest.
Excited that she can come back now and she can just sort of, live a reasonably normal life, not stuck in ISO for 14 days and all of that crap. So yeah.
You think she's ready to go out and see her friends?
Oh yeah, aren't we all?
Victoria has recorded 1,841 new COVID cases and 12 people have died with the virus in the past 24 hours. But in some positive news, we are close to reaching our 70% double vaccination target. We should hit that number by the end of today. We're currently sitting at 69.28% double dose, while 89% of Victorians have had their first dose. As a result, we'll start to emerge from our 6th lockdown at midnight on Thursday. Anne.
All right, Melina, thank you. Melina Saris in Melbourne. New South Wales residents will be given $50 vouchers to spend on holiday accommodation as the state continues to emerge from its COVID lockdown. Paul Caddick is in Sydney. Paul, good morning. Another day of under 300 new cases recorded.
Good morning, Anne. Slightly more than yesterday, but yes, still below that 300 mark for a third day now, with 283 new COVID infections recorded. Sadly, another 7 lives have been lost, taking the total number of deaths from the outbreak in New South Wales to 486. As the state government today looks to getting the tourism industry back on track, pledging $530 million in funding. The plan includes $50 accommodation vouchers for use after summer to keep people thinking holidays into March. There's also money to get major events, festivals, agricultural shows back up and running to attract business events to the city and activate CBD areas across Sydney. And in preparation for a relaxation of our international borders for tourists, there's also $60 million in subsidies and marketing to encourage overseas airlines that have been bypassing Australia to again start flying here.
This is all about opening up safely, but ensuring we get businesses back in business, people back into work. And these vouchers as well will be incredibly important in getting people out and about and enjoying the best that New South Wales has to offer.
Now, with the improving COVID situation here, especially the increasing vaccination rates, we're now at almost 82% of eligible people fully vaccinated. Health authorities say non-urgent elective surgery will restart in public and private facilities across Greater Sydney as of this coming Monday, October 25th. And
Paul Caddick reporting. Thanks a lot, Paul. Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk has called on regional areas to lift vaccination rates. Speaking in Maryborough ahead of the Sunshine State's reopening, it had no new community cases and 1 new hotel quarantine case.
Think about being in this storm. I can't look after you if you won't hop on the lifeboat. So just think about that. We need everybody to get on the lifeboat.
Queensland will also restart one-way flights from New Zealand's South Island. Australia has reached the first key milestone of the national reopening plan. 70% of the population over the age of 16 is now fully vaccinated. Political reporter Jennifer Beshwari joins us live from Canberra. Hi there, Jen. It's a significant step forward.
It is, Anne. 33 million vaccinations have now been administered across Australia. The rollout has been accelerating over the last couple of months, and to be precise, 70.007% of the country has now had 2 jabs. 85% have had 1. While this is good news for the nation, some states are lagging behind, particularly those that don't have COVID outbreaks. The federal government is urging them to roll up their sleeves. And another significant announcement today, aged care residents will be offered a booster shot from the second week of November, subject to approval from the Immunisation Board. It'll most likely be the Pfizer vaccine, as AstraZeneca and Moderna are yet to submit their booster applications. The third shot is currently only available to people who are immunocompromised, but the federal government is also seeking to give boosters to the general population before Christmas, particularly those who had the jab early on, so those quarantine, health and emergency workers. Here's Greg Hunt speaking today.
We're ready, we're in a position to commence and to make sure that additional protection is provided.
And Jen, some overseas tennis players could be refused entry to the Australian Open.
Yeah, world number one Novak Djokovic in particular has refused to reveal whether he is vaccinated, saying that it is a private matter. But the requirements to come to Australia quarantine-free is to be fully vaccinated. The federal government this morning ruled out special treatment for sports stars.
The government, in establishing its borders, has said that you'll need to be double vaccinated to visit Australia. That's a universal application, not just to tennis players.
Now, that rule may change as the country reaches phase D of the national reopening plan, but that may not happen before the Australian Open begins. Anne?
Jennifer Beshwadi in Canberra. Thanks a lot, Jen. It could be an explosive day at the New South Wales Corruption Commission. Former Premier Mike Baird arrived this morning to give evidence into the hearing about the conduct of his successor, Gladys Berejiklian. Mr Baird will face questions over why his government approved a grant pushed by then MP Daryl Maguire, who was in a secret relationship with Ms Berejiklian. Mr Baird's staff have raised concerns about why the grant process was being rushed through and with such urgency. One bureaucrat has already testified the secret relationship would have been a red flag in the request. The desperate search for 4-year-old Cleo Smith in WA has entered its 5th day. The mother of the little girl and her partner have spoken publicly, saying they are convinced she would not have wandered off from their tent by herself. Ben Downey has more.
The terrifying prospect little Cleo was taken now seems all more likely after her parents broke their silence, giving new heartbreaking insight into the night she disappeared. Ellie Smith and partner Jake revealing Cleo never left her side even around the home, casting doubt on the theory she simply wandered off early Saturday morning north of Carnarvon in WA. That hasn't stopped SES and police pulling out all the stops searching this 5 square kilometre stretch of coastline and bushland that's just resumed for a 5th day. So far, it hasn't uncovered a shred of evidence around her disappearance, but her parents remain hopeful.
Part of me was thinking, where is she? She needs breakfast. What's she doing? She's been strong from the day she was born. So I know she can get through whatever she's going through.
Police are still operating on the assumption that Cleo is alive as well. That's why they're renewing their plea to the nation for anyone with information to come forward.
Thank you, Ben. Next in 7 News, a passenger plane crashes as it fails to take off. How did everyone escape alive? And the Duchess of Cambridge delivers an important message on the social stigma of addiction. Australian basketball star Ben Simmons will miss the NBA season opener after he was suspended by the Philadelphia 76ers. Simmons reportedly failed to commit himself in training and was thrown out of practice for not taking part in a drill. His conduct described as detrimental to the team, and as a result, he's been suspended for 1 game as punishment.
At this point, I don't care about that man, honestly. He does whatever he wants. Our job is not to babysit somebody.
Every day, every single moment, I'm going to give Ben a chance to join the team.
Simmons has been asking for a trade, but still has 4 years left on his contract. A plane with 21 people on board has crashed and caught fire in Texas. The privately owned passenger jet crashed while attempting to take off from Houston Airport. Authorities say the plane failed to lift off the end of the runway and rolled through a fence before bursting into flames. All passengers and crew on board escaped. Only 1 person was injured. The Duchess of Cambridge has given the keynote speech launching a new campaign to help those struggling with addiction. Kate, who is patron for a drug and alcohol dependency charity, called for greater understanding for those battling addiction.
No one chooses to become an addict, but it can happen to any one of us. None of us are immune.
Moments before, she was surprised by the hosts of Britain's Got Talent, Ant and Dec, who emceed the event. The Queen has received many accolades during her life, but she's very politely refused the title of Oldie of the Year. Her Majesty firmly declined the award, explaining in a letter she does not believe she meets the criteria because you are as old as you feel. The 95-year-old monarch did, however, send her warmest best wishes. The symbolic handover of the Winter Olympics torch has taken place in Athens. A Greek Winter Olympian carrying an olive branch handed the torch to her Chinese counterpart. After an official ceremony, the flame was then passed on to a member of the Beijing Winter Olympic Committee. The flame now travels to the Chinese capital ahead of next year's Winter Olympics. The Australian share market has surged in opening trade this morning. Let's bring in our network finance editor, Gemma Acton. Gemma, good morning. What's caused the rise?
Good morning, Anne. Well, our local market often takes its cue from what happened on Wall Street overnight. And certainly the burst of optimism we saw in US markets has set the right tone for Australian shares today. In the US overnight, some strong company earnings reports from major firms, including Netflix, boosted sentiment, particularly around consumer spending. Now, here at home, consumer-facing companies are also doing well, including Super Retail Group, Redbubble and Webjet, while miners are rebounding after a sharp sell-off yesterday. Kogan is more than 7% higher after the online retailer impressed investors with an update on trading during the most recent lockdowns. And overall today, the ASX 200 is around 70 points higher, with only a handful of companies seeing their share prices fall. Meanwhile, the Aussie dollar did not budge overnight. It's still inching closer and closer to 75 US cents.
Gemma Acton reporting. Thanks a lot, Gemma. Next in 7 News, we'll have sport with Matt Shervington, and David Warner's teammates rally around the out-of-form Aussie opener, and a former Socceroos boss leads the Scottish Giants to a big win in the Europa League.
Good morning. Teammates have rallied behind the out-of-form David Warner ahead of Australia's first T20 World Cup match. The 34-year-old hasn't passed 50 since April and was dumped from Hyderabad starting 11 in the IPL. But the Australians know never to count out a champion.
If you ever doubt Davey, it's an absolute no-no. Unfortunately, he got Martin Guptill yesterday with an absolute hanger. Those sorts of things happen when you're searching for it, but you know when he gets out there, he's going to hit the ground running.
Warner gets another chance to score runs tonight when the Australians play India in their final practice match. Bangladesh overcame sloppy fielding to beat co-host Oman by 26 runs and keep alive their hopes of advancing in the T20 World Cup. Scotland, which upset Bangladesh in their opening game, eliminated spirited debutant Papua New Guinea by recording a 17-run victory. All signs are pointing towards an exciting Cox Plate on Saturday. Hot favourite Zaki cooled his heels at the beach this morning with stablemate Moanga after an impressive gallop at track work yesterday. Trainer Annabelle Nieshman is stuck in Sydney but admits there's plenty of pressure to perform on the day.
Yeah, it's very special. Obviously a bit nerve-wracking. Didn't sort of dream of being in this position, but yeah, and it's great to be in the position, but obviously with it comes a few nerves and a bit of pressure.
Zaki will jump from barrier 6. As reported earlier, the Philadelphia 76ers have suspended Ben Simmons for the start of the NBA season for detrimental conduct. Fellow Aussie and Boomer big man Aaron Baines won't be suiting up either. He'll miss the entire season as he struggles with a neck injury sustained at the Olympics. The 34-year-old was cut by the Toronto Raptors but was close to finding a new home for the season. Reigning Eastern Conference MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo is already making his mark on the season. The The Greek freak has been a menace at both ends of the court, but Boomers captain Paddy Mills has hit the scoreboard early for his new team, the Brooklyn Nets. Former Socceroos coach Ange Postecoglou has steered Celtic through to the knockout stages of the Europa League. The Scottish Giants scored a 2-0 home win over Hungarian champions Ferencváros, the opener by Japanese striker Kyogo Furuhashi, earning plenty of praise from the Celtic manager.
And that's a terrific through ball as well to find Furuhashi, who puts Celtic in front.
Yeah, world class. Kyogo with a touch and finish. I think it's as good a goal you probably see in European competition this week.
In the Champions League, Lionel Messi had ice in his veins, chipping in a penalty to lead Paris Saint-Germain to a 3-2 win over RB Leipzig. PSG now lead their group ahead of Man City. Ange Postecoglou going very well. David Warner, well, he's going to have to find some runs this evening against India. We'll see how he goes.
Got a bit of support though, so good luck.
Fingers crossed, yeah, plenty of support.
Thanks, Shirva.
Thanks, Anne.
Next in 7's Morning News, we'll have the national weather forecast for you. The Bureau is investigating if a hailstone record was broken during a wild storm in North Queensland. Hail up to 16 centimetres fell north of Mackay yesterday. The Weather Bureau says hail that size has a terminal velocity of well over 100 kilometres an hour. Cars caught up in the storm were extensively damaged. So let's have a look at the national weather forecast now, and a trough is causing showers and storms across Tasmania and the eastern seaboard. Another trough is triggering storms over southern WA. To the national capitals, a possible storm, 27 the top in Brisbane. Sydney showers and 21 degrees today. Canberra possible showers and 18. Melbourne a sunny day, a top of 23. Hobart sunny and 17. Adelaide partly cloudy, a top of 30. Perth showery and 20. And for Darwin, a possible storm, 35 degrees. And in Alice, very hot today, a top expected of 41 degrees. And that's 7 News to now. We'll keep you up to date throughout the day. Our next major bulletin is at 4 p.m. I'm Ann Sanders. Thanks for your company. Have a lovely day.